It's Ash from Super Videos back for another video for Season 9 of The Walking Dead. So they released some news last week regarding Rick, and they have confirmed that there will be multiple Rick Grimes-centric movies coming, and maybe even many more spin-offs, more TV shows, and more movies, and other things that are Walking Dead related. And, it seems like even though we've seen the end of Rick Grimes' story in The Walking Dead's original TV show, we haven't seen the end of Rick Grimes' overall story. They did confirm that he's not going to come back to the show anymore, ever again. But with that said, he is going to be in Walking Dead movies and maybe even spin-off TV shows, which is very interesting. Now, this is going to be a raw video. I'm going to go over some articles, some clips from Talking Dead, and just talk to you guys about these information that are coming out. And there will be probably not a lot of editing in here. It's just going to be raw. I hope you guys like the raw videos, because this is definitely going to be one of those raw ones. So the first article we're going to look at actually comes from AMC itself. AMC Studios original films to continue the story of Rick Grimes. Now, the key here is that it says AMC Studios original films. So in a way, it's not movies that you can watch in theaters. There are movies that you can watch on AMC. And that does connect to what Scott Gimple said on Talking Dead. For those of you that don't know, he was one of the guests during Talking Dead last week, and he kind of discussed this news in which this article and other articles are based on. And of course, Scott Gimple is not the showrunner of the TV show anymore. He is the chief officer of the entire franchise of Walking Dead. At least when it comes to the TV show and other things like that. Not the comics. That's Robert Kirkman. But in terms of other stuff, Scott Gimple is the one that runs everything and oversees everything. Some of you might not like that. Anyway, going back to this article, we have AMC announces the first projects in development from Chief Content Officer Scott M. Gimple for the Walking Dead universe, a series of AMC Studios original films starring Andrew Lincoln and written by Gimple are planned to continue the story of Rick Grimes, with the first expected to begin production as early as 2019. So there's definitely going to be a movie coming up very quick for Rick, which is very interesting and very exciting. The very first movie will be explaining the rest of Rick's story after he was taken away with the helicopter by Jadis and the helicopter group at the end of last episode, Season 9, Episode 5, called What Comes After. Maybe we'll dive more into what the helicopter community is all about. And I'm sure Pollyann McIntosh, who plays Jadis, and maybe even the actor that played Heath, will be starring in the movie as well. For Jadis, it's obvious because she's with Rick, but for Heath, it was confirmed that she was actually traded to the helicopter group by Jadis. So, based on that, it's not unlikely, if he's not already dead, for us to see Heath in the helicopter community when Rick and Jadis get there. Moving on, we have in Lincoln's final appearance on the hit series The Walking Dead, the character of Rick Grimes is mortally wounded and last seen being flown away by helicopter to an unknown destination. The first film will explore the story of where Rick is taken and what he faces in the new corner of the zombie apocalypse, including additional films, specials, series, digital content, and more. Some of the stories will relate to The Walking Dead as fans know it, while others will be standalone stories that break into new creative territory. So that touches on what Scott Gimple said on Talking Dead as well, which I will kind of show afterwards and talk about, but it seems like there's going to be multiple movies. Then we have a quote, we have a lot on the horizon. Starting with a new epic featuring one of the greatest leading actors in television history and one of the best people I've ever met, said Gimple. These films are going to be big evolutions of what we've been doing on the show, with the scope and scale of features. We are starting with the first part of the continuing story of Rick Grimes, and there's much more on the way, featuring yet unseen worlds of The Walking Dead and faces from the show's past, as well as new characters we hope to become favorites, told by The Walking Dead veterans and emerging voices. We want to break new ground with different, distinct stories, all part of the same world that's captured our imagination for nearly a decade of the dead. So Just going back to a few things he said, so it seems like we will have, not only movies, but also feature films, specials, spin-offs even maybe, and maybe things along those lines. And also, it might not be just Rick. We might be seeing characters from the past in standalone movies as well. Or maybe even if they're not in movies, they might be in series or specials or spin-offs. Or we might even see them through flashbacks or hallucinations in other things that they're doing. And it seems like they might be doing stories for characters that we haven't seen before. Some of these may be comic characters, some of them might not be. So it's like they are expanding, these stories and telling stories that might not necessarily have been there in the comics. They might even be telling stories from the comic book that are part of special issues. We had one for Michonne, we had one for Tyrese, and we had similar kind of stories being told for the Walking Dead characters. One book for the governor, so we could be seeing things along those lines as well, which is definitely very, very exciting. Moving on to the last paragraph from David Madden, president of original programming for AMC, he says, "We believe that this is a world and narrative with many possibilities and opportunities for character development," which is definitely true. "And we are excited to expand the series into a franchise that can live across multiple formats." Now that's interesting. Multiple formats, maybe it could be referring to the big screen and the small screen, the TV shows, maybe more video games or things of that nature. But when he says multiple formats, that's definitely interesting. And then we have Sundance and AMC Studios saying, "For many years, fans have talked about things in the apocalypse they want to see. And now we want to have an opportunity to explore those stories, beginning with the character who started it all, Rick Grimes." So it seems like the trigger for this massive project is going to be Rick Grimes, which makes a lot of sense and works. Now, one other thing I do want to say about Rick Grimes' final moments in the TV show and his future before I move on into other things for this video is that I had a big problem with an open-ended story for Rick Grimes. Not because I didn't like Rick coming back, not because I wanted them to kill Rick, but because I was concerned that if fans can connect any type of story, mystery, or anything like that with Rick coming back and linking it to Rick somehow, they would jump on it right away. I did talk about this before, but I think that it takes away from all of the stories, all of the mysteries that they're trying to build, because many fans immediately jump at, it's going to be Rick. It's related to Rick. We've seen that a lot in the past with even small characters. Look at Heath, for example. We've been talking about Heath for a long time. Look at Dwight. We are talking about when is Dwight going to come back. We talked about Morales. Of course, he came back. But, this shows that there's going to be a lot of fans talking about Rick coming back somehow in future stories. And like I said, it's going to take away from the excitement and what they're trying to build with other stories and other mysteries. And at some point, it will become frustrating. There's going to be many fans that are going to be pissed off because some fans are going to jump at the idea that Rick is going to come back to the story because of this particular storyline or mystery that we have. Now, they did something pretty cool by not only giving us movies and continuing Rick's story, but also confirming that he's not going to come back to the show ever again. So that basically stops any speculation right away. And I think that was a smart decision by whoever made the decision to reveal that. But that's basically all my thoughts. So I am very excited. I'm glad that they're bringing Rick back for the movies. I am glad that, they did kind of finish his story in a great way in the last episode. And they did confirm that he's not going to come back. So that's kind of addressed the problem that I had with an open-ended story for Rick. Now, with that said, there's a couple more things that I do want to talk about in this video. This video might be very long, but, I do want to talk about quite a lot of stuff regarding Rick and, the projects that they're working on. So before I actually move on to the other stuff, I do want to kind of relate what we read in this article with some things from the interview that was on Talking Dead. Starting with Scott Gimple actually addressing Rick's final moments and revealing that he's going to come back in a Walking Dead movie. So I'll kind of let you guys listen and I'll pause and talk about it along the way.
People are having a lot of emotions right my God, is Rick going to die? Is he going to go off? What's going to happen? So it looks like he survived. Is this really the end of Rick? Is this some weird trick? What's happening, Scott Gimple?
This is not a weird trick.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
So, of course, when he says this is not a trick, so that kind of touches on how Rick was going back and forth between the real world and the fake world in a way. So, you know, for all fans who were saying that that's also part of Rick's hallucination, that put all of the speculations to rest as well when he said it's not a big trick.
This is the end of Rick Grimes on The Walking Dead.
Okay.
But this is not the end of Rick Grimes' story. We're going to continue telling Rick Grimes' story in a series of AMC original films. There's a lot of story to tell. And we can't wait to get started and showing you all the stuff that we...
So you're going to make movies. You're going to make movies.
We're going to make AMC original films.
Okay. And what can we expect from, like, how does that tie into the Walking Dead universe?
And just going back to what he said, they are AMC studio films. So they're going to be shown on AMC, not in movie theaters.
What's going to happen with the universe?
Well, it expands the universe. It's going to show a whole different corner of the world. It's going to show a different situation that Rick is involved in. These are going to be shown on AMC right now, but they're going to have the scope of feature films. These are, we are in an age now when we're making feature films for the television boxes. Mm-hmm. And they're going to be at that level. And we're going to be seeing an epic story told over years.
So are the films...
That's actually very interesting. He said over years. So it seems like maybe we will have quite a long time passing by in these type of movies that they're doing with Rick. So we might actually have whatever Rick is involved in these movies taking maybe 6 years, maybe 7 years. So maybe by the end of all of that, or the end of those movies that they're doing, I heard that it's 3 movies. So by the end of those 3 movies, the timeline might actually match up with where we are in the Walking Dead TV show when we come back in season 9, episode 6, which is actually kind of interesting and cool if you think about it.
Part of what we can expect from the Walking Dead universe?
We have the big thing that we're doing now is this Rick Grimes story, but we are going to be telling new series in different lengths, shorter series, longer series. We're going to be doing specials. We're working on that now. We're working on digital content. We're working on things that are not easy to describe at the moment.
That's actually interesting. Things that are not easy to describe. It's either a show or a movie or a video game. What else can it be?
You're going to see characters that are gone, dead and gone. We're going to see...
So that could be flashbacks, like I said, or it could be standalone movies or specials or TV shows about characters that are dead.
Stories of their past. We're going to see different stories of future characters.
And again, like I said, that could be characters from the comic book, or it could be new characters that are not part of the comics.
And we're just going to be telling Walking Dead stories in different ways. We're going to see all around the world.
That's actually very interesting, all around the world. Now, immediately what jumped at me was Rick's brother and additional story that they had for Rick's brother when he was in Barcelona, I believe. And, that was a different part of the world. So it could be part of what Scott Gimple is referring to here.
See the past, we're going to see the present, might see the future.
I'm very excited. I don't know about anybody else.
Yeah.
And so this is what you've run on. This is what you're doing now in this position. Like you haven't been able to talk about that. And I didn't know about any of this until today.
No.
So this is what you're going off and building now. This extended universe.
And it's a very long-term plan. We're not going to throw all of this at you guys at once.
And also to touch on that, it's not something that they're just doing now. They've been doing it in the last couple of years as well. For example, the backstory on the Red Machete, they included Joe as well in that. Also, what they're doing with Fear and, intertwining Fear and The Walking Dead itself. And also telling other mini stories or other specials that they've been doing in the first couple of seasons. So it's not something that they're doing right now. They've been doing it. But the only difference is that now it's going to be much, much bigger than what it used to be.
And some of it is going to speak to each other, and they're going to be all connected, and some of it will be totally on its own.
Well, just don't forget that when you make the Walking Dead movies, that you need to also make a Talking Dead movie. I'm just saying.
All right, so that was pretty funny as well, but that's enough of that. Part of that Talking Dead episode, we have Yvette Nicole Brown interviewing Andrew Lincoln, and there's a part with Andrew Lincoln talking about, this story of Rick going forward, and I thought that was interesting as well, so I'll let you guys hear, and then I'll kind of talk about that a bit as well.
And so you know what this man is capable of, and then you rediscover this man, and he's not that. Mm-hmm. And then maybe it's the start of another bigger story.
Yeah, I kind of like the idea of him out there.
Yeah.
So that was very interesting. Not only saying that he's not that, referring to maybe he's not the same type of person anymore, and also he's going to be involved in another situation. So in a way, it would be kind of interesting. I'm not saying I like it, but it's going to be interesting to see if this means that maybe what we're going to see is Rick actually not remembering anything from his past in these movies. Maybe he was in a coma again due to the blood loss, and maybe the movie starts with him waking up from the coma in the helicopter community. I'm not saying I like it, absolutely not. I have mixed feelings about that idea, but could be what Rick is referring to, with him saying it's not the same person. So in a way, he could be introduced to the zombie apocalypse again in completely different circumstances. And the other situation he could be involved in could be referring to him maybe working his way to becoming another badass character again, like the original. But it's going to be different. I don't want him to do the exact same thing. I'm just saying that there's just something very cool about that idea, which might be what they're referring to. I'm not saying I like it. I'm just saying it's interesting. Now, going quickly into the last article that I do want to talk about. I'm not going to go through the entire thing, but I do want to kind of touch on a few things. We have the article coming from The Hollywood Reporter saying Walking Dead stars ink franchise deals. The Niagara eyes new pact. So I'll kind of read the start of this and kind of talk a little bit about what it could be referring to and kind of end this video here because it is running super long. But we have the article saying Norman Reedus, Daryl, and Melissa McBride Carroll will both have the option to appear in other AMC offshoots as the Black Panther breakout hopes to continue on with the franchise. So it seems like Norman Reedus and Melissa McBride have made this pact with AMC, and in this pact, maybe the deal is that they could be part of other shows and movies like we talked about. And it's not like they always have to be on The Walking Dead original. Doesn't mean that they're gonna die, but they could appear in other things. They did the same thing with Morgan. And like it says, the Niagara who plays Michonne could be joining this pact as well. Nothing on Lauren Cohan and Maggie, but the others definitely seems like there's something there for them. And I'll just read the first paragraph. As AMC officially begins its expansion plans for The Walking Dead, the cable network has signed 2 key cast members to what sources describe as groundbreaking multiple-year franchise universe deals. Meanwhile, breakout star Danai Gurira is in negotiations with AMC for a similar pact. Fan favorites Norman Reedus, Daryl, and Melissa McBride Carroll, who both starred with the zombie drama in Season 1, have signed rich new deals with the cable network. Sources say the pact will cover 3 years of the franchise as a whole, so it's a 3-year deal. Meaning if their characters are written off of the flagship and relocated to another property in the Walking Dead franchise or depart completely, they would continue to get paid. Which, it's interesting because why would you make this deal and just kill them? I don't think they're going to kill them, but there's definitely that safety net for the actors, for sure. But going back to how the movies for Rick are on AMC and their AMC studio films, it could be part of this pact as well. So we could potentially see maybe Daryl, maybe Carol, and maybe Michonne appearing in those movies as part of flashbacks or things like that, which is also interesting. Sources say Reedus, who also hosts and execs produces AMC's unscripted motorcycle series Ride with Norman Reedus will make $350,000 per episode on top of additional guarantees and advances in a deal that sources say could be worth anywhere from $50 million to $90 million. That is insane. McBride's deal, which is set to include a sizable pay bump, will see the actress score an estimated $20 million over 3 years. Guerrera, meanwhile, is currently negotiating a new deal with AMC that could be complicated by her status. Reps for Guerrera, Reedus, and McBride all declined comments. Of course, they're not gonna come out and say they made this deal, but definitely very interesting. Then they just go on to talk about other stuff related to that, talking about the project, saying that they can move freely among new projects on the Walking Dead universe, on AMC, which goes back to what I said before as well. So it seems like there's going to be a lot of new stuff coming for Walking Dead, and we're only scratching the surface, it seems, with the comic book and the show now, and Fear, if you want to include Fear. But that's basically everything I wanted to cover for this video. The links of these articles will be in the description if I can remember to put them, so you guys can go and read the entire articles yourself. But that's basically it. Very excited, and let's see what happens. Let's see where we go from here. That's it for this video. See you next time for another super video. If you like what you see, press like, subscribe for more content, and press the bell button to receive notifications for daily uploads. Like and follow the Facebook page of this channel to join our community, and check out the upload schedule to learn more about daily uploads.